Okay, so I will start the session. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to day 4 of Wikimedia Technology Training sessions. So today we will be having a session on MediaWiki Databases. First of all, I would like to invite Mr. Um, Casey Velaga for the fourth session on MediaWiki Databases. To give his introduction, Mr. Casey is a very seasonal Wikipedian. A couple of his English articles have also featured as good articles. While studying in his college, he started a Wiki Club and represents Media Wiki Developer community from India. It is a user group for all Wikimedia developers. So I would like to once again thank Mr. Casey for conducting this session, and I will hand it over to him. Welcome to the session.
Yeah, thank you. Uh, so I'll be talking about, and feel free to interrupt if you have any questions in between. I'll be talking about the different data available for across Wikimedia projects. So I'm sure many of you have used Wikipedia, but it is one of the top 10 websites on the internet, and obviously there is a lot of data. I'll share my screen and we can. Is my screen visible?
Yes, your screen is visible.
Okay. So when we think of Wikimedia data, there are three primary categories: reading, editing, and content. So reading talks about how many people are reading Wikipedia, how many uh, devices, like how many unique devices are accessing Wikipedia, and like a bunch of other things. And when we talk about editing, we talk about how many editors are there by different Wikipedia projects, how many edits are being made, and how many new articles are created, things like that. And when we come to content, it is how many articles are there on a Wikipedia, what is the size of those articles, and things like that. So I'll do a quick overview of how this will look like. So this is yeah, I'll be sharing links on the chat. So this is the central dashboard of it is not everything, but at the base level, this is the central dashboard where all the data related to Wikipedia exists. So, for example, we take reading, and let's take an example of, let's say, Telugu Wikipedia. And yeah, so you can see the total page views received by the Wikipedia from 2022, and so this is the last 2 years. So you can change, you can zoom a little bit. You can change, go back, and you can see the it has been increasing, and then you can see page views by country um, to see where is Telugu Wikipedia being most read. So, of course, India, and also the next highest is probably the United States, uh, and Canada and Australia. So a lot of immigrants from India who go there to work, so they're probably reading Wikipedia. And unique devices. So unique devices is number of unique devices. So for example, if you have a mobile phone, that is a unique device, and if you have a computer, that's a different unique device. So it's a number of unique devices accessing Telugu Wikipedia. And then the top viewed articles. What are the top, which received the highest page views last month? So under the Telugu language. Uh, and you can also download this data as a CSV file, um, or and use it in Google Sheets or Excel data if you want. So that's reading. So when it comes to editing, so we call it contributing. So there is editors, how the editors have been. So there's decline. So there is something to think about, and the number of active editors. So number of active editors are editors who have done at least 10 edits in a month. Editors can be any number of registered editors, but active editors are editors who have done at least 10 edits in a month. And then the number of edits made each month. So last month on Telugu it is 1,000 edits. So you can also look for English, which will be much higher. In English, there are almost 8 million edits that are done last month. And yeah, user edits. So edits are defined differentiated between user edits and bot edits. So user edits are edits because bots. There are also a lot of bots on Wikipedia which edits like maintenance tracking. So those are specified like so there is a different split for like user edits, which is 3.5 million, which is a huge number, and number of new pages created, um, number of new registered users, top editors by pages and active editors by country. So you can see where with English Wikipedia most being edited from. So in the reading, we saw where people are uh, reading a wiki project, but like in contributing, we can see where are people editing from. So a lot from US, and which is obvious because it's English Wikipedia, and then of course it's India. But if you see for Telugu, this is mostly going to reverse. So yeah, mostly in India, but also few people from other countries. And then finally we have content. So this is the number of pages edited, total number of pages like chart until now, and number of. So this is so we have the edits, but this is like how many bytes of content was added. So in English, for example, it's 2.5 GB of content was added. So this was in the last month. So that's an overview. So we of like the three broad data categories that we have: reading, editing, and content. So this is to give an idea of how, like, what is the possible data sources that we have, and then I'll go to the actual tool of query to how to query a Wikipedia and yeah, get the results. So this is not everything. This doesn't give us all the results, but it gives some results, but not everything. Uh, so just I'm not sure what that means. Like so if so query will be on SQL. I just want to have a quick. Not sure. You can do it on chat or probably as a poll or something like. I just want to quickly understand like how many people know query or how many and how many don't, so that I can speak accordingly.
Yeah, somebody rose the query. They just raised the hand so that we know you're familiar with the query.
SQL or SQL. Okay. So I can. So SQL. I mean, I'll give a little bit introduction to SQL. It will be a useful skill to learn in your career as well. So SQL is a structured query language. So for yesterday, I think Janoy had a session on Wikidata where he used SparkQL. So that's a different. It's very similar to SparkQL, but the syntax is a little different. So I'll not go into the details of SQL because that's out of scope for this session. But I'll briefly talk some of the like some things concepts related to SQL while I explain query. So query is a tool. It's a tool you can see here. It's a tool to run queries but using SQL structured query language. on Wikimedia projects to get data. So, of course, this data is everything is stored on a database. You can explore the database. There are a lot of tables, but I won't go into the details of those tables. But there are four tables which we primarily use, which is page table, which has information about a page, which has page title, which is a new page, when it was updated, length of the page, restrictions on a page, and then revision table, which is edits data when the user's editing. So the edit ID, which page does it belong to, and whether it was deleted, whether it was what was the previous ID, and then we have the user table, which has data about username. Password is not public; it's a private data, but you have others like username, uh, the edit count of the user, when the user is temporary. So we have all this data. So I'll so there's a lot you can do with query, like you can run very advanced queries, but I will start with. So let's say we want to answer a question: who are the top editors on Telugu Wikipedia in 2023? So that is a question we want to answer. So we'll see how we can construct a query using coding. So the question we were trying to answer is, who are the top editors on Telugu Wikipedia in 2023? Yeah, before I start on that, any questions? Things are explained along. Okay, I think that's all then. So, so when you come to query, you have a new query to run SQL queries. So you click on new query, it will take you to a, I'm not creating this, I already created one. It will take you to this page where you can give it a name and then select a database. So database is the wiki project. So it is a short form, which is, for example, it is TE-Wiki for Telugu Wikipedia, it is HI-Wiki for Hindi, EN-Wiki for English. So one thing about SQL is the query you run doesn't change for English or Hindi or Telugu. It is the same table. It is the same. So I'll show you at the end once we construct the query. It is the same for Telugu. It's the same for Hindi. So you just need to understand SQL, and then you can run it for. It doesn't depend on. It is not dependent on what is the language of the database that you're querying. It is only so because every wiki, like, so the way this data is structured is the same for each wiki. It doesn't change by wiki. So that's an advantage. So I'll also be explaining some concepts of SQL along with, yeah, just writing the query. So we want to understand who are the top editors on Telugu Wikipedia. So when we're talking about editors, so we want to count the number of edits they made. So the the table for editors is, so the table for edits is the revision table. We call it revision because each time a page is revised. So for example, you can see on a page history. So you can see these are all the edits that are made to this page. So we want to start with the revision table. So SQL has three, or let's say three primary parts when you're writing the query, and then like there are optionally 4 to 5 other parts. So we start with This is not always required. So we start with select, which is things you want to select, the things you want to see in the revision table. Nothing for now. I'll come back to this later. And from is the which table do we want to query from. So in this case, it's a revision table. And where is what are the conditions? So we'll come to this later. For example, so what are the conditions? So what are the conditions is we want the edit to be in, we're only counting 2023. So the timestamp. Uh, so we have the revision timestamp. So there's a function to extract year on that. So we call it year equal to 2023. Select star. So select star is it selects all the available columns in this table. So let's see how this data looks. So okay, there's also a limit which just because there will be a little lot here, I'm just limiting to 10 just to see how the data looks. Yeah. So we have edits. So the data is not at all. Yeah, it's all numbers. So because it's different IDs linking to different tables. So let's see. So rev page refers to the page ID on the page table. So if you see the documentation, so rev page is a reference to the page table, which is page ID. And rev actor is a reference to the actor table, which has the user data. So let's start with one. So let's start with so okay, now there is so we have an ID to rev page. Let's join the page table first and see how it is. So we have rev page, and now we want to first join the page table so that we can get page name. So how do we do that? After the from, before the where condition, use a keyword called join, and the table name is page, and then on. On is, and then you write on and say which is to say like what is like which column to use as a reference. So what do we want to use is like in the revision we want to match rev page. So you can also give uh, shortcuts to this table name so that you don't have to write long names every time. So I have given just space and then like, shorter name. So I've made rev as rev and page as p. Or you can do PG for like more clarity. So what I want to do is match rev page and rev page and match it with page ID on page table. pg.page ID. So yeah, so that will match the table. But instead of bringing all the columns, let us select only some columns. So we want the revision ID, we want the rev page, and rev actor, rev timestamp, and on the page side of things, we want page title and yeah, just page title for now. So yeah, so when we run this, we can see some more results. Okay, see. So now we have page names, which so we have the page names, which from the rev page. And now what the next step would be to do like attach the user table so we get the usernames. So that is the actor table. So on revision table, we have this field called rev actor. in the documentation, if you search the documentation, you can find like what is this field. This is a key to the actor ID on actor table. So this is the actor table and this is the actor ID. So what we want to do is again write another join after this. Join actor ACP on ACP.actor ID web.actor ID equal to web.acp.actor ID. And we want to select the username. Okay. So now we have some information which is more readable, right, like to users. So we have the edit ID, when did the edit take place, and then the page, and then the actor. So this is the base of our data. So we want to find the top 10 editors, but this is where we start first. And then we will now find out who are the top 10. So when writing SQL, the way you can do, so there are multiple ways, like there are multiple styles of writing it, but what we would do is generally, so define this as base. So with base as with base as. So what I'm doing here is I'm defining, okay, this is the results of this table, whatever, like, so getting all the edit information, it's the base. You can give it a different name. That's totally fine. You can give it like edits or, so usually it's called base because this is the starting table for our, to build further queries on this. So we write the base, and then what we do is select. So now we want to get the top editors in 2023. So the top editor, so 2023 is already applied, so we don't need to do further anything on that. So we want the top editor. So what we always want the username, which is the actor name, and then we want the number of edits they made. So edits are divided. So, and we want to select unique. Sometimes there can be duplicate edits. So we can distinct as. So we should give it a name for as we are applying the function as edit count. So where are we getting this table from? We are getting this from the base table. So this is based on that. So when we are doing an aggregation, like count by the number, sorry, there should be a comma here. Count by this username, count by this page, count, or like sum all the sum of all the bytes added by the page, or like average number of edits made in a month. So all like mathematical aggregations like sum, count, mean, median. So when we're doing those, it is SQL, you need to write group by, which is a way to tell SQL to count these, but count by what? Count, should I count, should SQL count this by timestamp or by page or what? So count these, and so we want by username. So this is very similar to if you use SQL or like, sorry, if you use Google Sheets or Excel, you have sum if, count if, or like average if. So you're saying if this like count if the edit matches this username. So this will count all the edits, but now we need to order them. This will count. This will give us a list of all editors and the number of edits they made. We don't want that. We only want top 10. So how do we use top 10? So now we need to construct another. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to define this as, for example, I don't know, edits by user as. We need to do this. We can't. There is SQL. It depends. There are different languages, like different versions of SQL, but most of SQL they cannot. You cannot. So we have the count here, which is defined in this query, but we cannot use the same. We cannot order the results in the same query because it hasn't been processed yet. So what we'll need to do is write this, and then now we'll come to the final part. So we select. Um, we want to select everything. So we want to select both the actor name and user and the edit count. So select star from it's by user. The only thing we need to do here is order by. Order by, what we want to order by is edit count. And by default, the default order sorting order is ascending order, but we want top, so it should be descending order. So we have a keyword called ESC. And let's we want top 10 editors, so we limit it to 10 results. That's the query, and so you run it. It's going to take a few seconds, yeah. So yeah, so we have the results. So these are the users who have done top edits. So some of these are also bots. You can remove bots if needed. We can do that as an additional step. Um, and then you have the edit count. So the top editors of Telugu Wikipedia. So as I mentioned before, so we can use the same thing for any wiki. So if I want Hindi Wikipedia, HI wiki, and I run without changing anything, just change the database name. It's going to take more time because Hindi is obviously a larger project and there are more editors. So it will take it took 3 seconds for Telugu and 9 seconds for Hindi. So yeah, so you have the Hindi top editors. Yeah, so that is the basic of SQL and how to use SQL to query. Obviously, if you learn SQL and then you can write more advanced queries, you can. So queries, everything is public. So for example, you can go to the recent queries. You have a list of This is I just run a recent query, and so you can see like different queries, like different examples um, to yeah. So different examples people just to get some ideas of what is all possible. So yeah, so that's query, and yeah, any questions, thoughts before, or if you want to try, if anyone has ideas to try another question, we can do that as well. Um,
So if the participants have any questions, they can raise their questions in the chat. So while we wait for the questions, I have a question myself. So when you were I saw a bunch of other projects other than Hindi Wiki. So does this mean we can access actor page info about Wiki Voyage, Wiki Dictionary, and other projects?
yeah, the structure is the same, so we can. So let's check English Wiki Voyage. So the same, change the database name and run the query. So we'll get the results for that as well. So it is the data structure. That's advantage is the data structure remains same across all projects. So once you construct a query for one language, you can change it and run it and see the results very easily.
Oh, that's quite helpful. Okay, so for the participants, you can answer any small or big, like you can ask any question, no matter how trivial it is. Feel free to raise your hand or and put it in the chat. Otherwise, we can proceed if we don't have any questions for now.
Okay, sure. Uh, yeah, feel free to raise hand in between while I'm talking as well. I'll proceed for now. So, superset is so the next stage of there are three tools at Wikimedia we use. So the next stage of query is a tool which you can query the results, but I can't visualize anything in this. For example, this is not a good example to visualize, but let me see if there's another query. Um, let's see if we can use this query. Okay, yeah. So I don't have good examples to visualize, but so the disadvantage with query, there are two disadvantages. One, actually there are multiple disadvantages, but like so this is a good start. So what we usually do is when we want to build a dashboard, a whole dashboard for Telugu Wikipedia to monitor different things. We start with query because it is easy. There is not much setup required. It is you can test your queries, see if they're running well, and uh, like improve your query if things are not getting expected or like the results are not as you expect. So we have query the tool, and now the next is Superset. Superset is an open source version of you might have heard of or used Power BI, Tableau, and Google Data Studio, which is an Looker. Sorry. So Superset is an open source alternative. Superset has originally been developed by Airbnb to maintain their internal infrastructure, and then it has been made open source, and a lot of companies use it, and it is a very widely used visualization tool. So the advantage with Superset is so you log into Superset with your Wikimedia account. No separate process is necessary. I can share the link to Superset here. This is Wikimedia Superset in the sense so you can only access Wikimedia data on this. So what we do is so I have this. I mean let's see if we can modify it. Okay, so these are good examples for visualization, but I'll show you how this thing works. So we have this query. This is another query for which I've built previously. So this is counting the number of editors by year who have made different, like at least 100 edits or like 1,000 edits. So what we can do is we can take this query, directly copy this, and then go to, so when you open Superset, you have different tabs. So go to SQL Lab, paste the same query, no changes required, select the database and the schema, and then run the query. So you'll see, the results as you. I can zoom in a little bit. So you'll see the results as you see here. Not it will be all be the same. What you can do here is create a visualization. So for example, how I want to. So there are multiple ways to do this, right? So for example, you can download the CSV file. So query, you can download the data in different formats like CSV, JSON, or wiki table, and then use it wherever you want. So you can take this to Google Sheets, visualize it, take it to Python, uh, and visualize it. So there are different ways to do it. So Superset is also one of the way, and it is easy because there's no much coding required, and it is any community member or like anybody can use. the tools with less effort. So we have superset. So I paste the query in SQL Lab, right? Give it a name. Okay. And then, so once I get the results, I can click on this create a chart. So it will give a different visualization, but what we should select is, so there are different charts you can select. It'll default to table because the output is a table, but you can select different chart, line chart, area chart, bar chart. So let's do line chart, which is most relevant for the data. So we want the registration year, and then we want to, yeah, and then just see the number of users. Yep. So select the number of users, and then you can see a visualization of the number of users by uh, the number of users on Telugu Wikipedia, and you can like select a different users who have made at least 100 edits, or like users have made at least um, like 1 to 100 edits on Telugu Wikipedia, so you can see the trend line. Uh, so that's at the basic level. Like I'm just introducing different tools. So once you create this, you can save this um, and just give it a name. And yeah, so you can save it. And so once you have multiple charts, you can create a whole dashboard. There are not a lot of yeah. So once you have like enough charts, so for example, for example, if you want to understand the community activity of uh, like Hindi Wiki Voyage, you can have number of editors who are registering, number of like as I've shown them, how many edits people are making, how many new articles people are creating. So have all these charts, and then you can create one dashboard to monitor everything. So, uh, so that's how we can use Superset. And so, so after Superset, we have another tool called the Page Views tool. It's actually a collection of tools, which so for example, what happened on stats or the stats.wikimedia.org, we have like overall about a project, but what about different pages? We want to see. Um, I want to compare two pages on a Wikipedia project, so that's where this tool comes to use. So let's say on English, I want to see like about and so daily views are so 5,000 people viewed the article every day. So you can change this to monthly as well, and change this to let's say last 6 months. Yeah. So last 6 months, like so, this is giving by month count, and we should be able to change the chart to line. Yeah. And then let's say I want to compare this with some other city like that, like for example, New Delhi, and Mumbai. So you can see the comparison. So Mumbai is top, but you can also see the different comparisons of like compare different pages. And then we have line views, which is intro. Yeah. So what line views does is so if you already don't know, Wikipedia is available in all Wikipedia or every Wikimedia project is available in multiple languages. So this is English Wikipedia, and if I go to article Mumbai, so I can read it in English, but for example, if I want to read it in Hindi or Telugu, I can easily switch. So on the article top, you have this like the language selected, and then I can easily select another language. So if I go to Hindi, and I can select Hindi, and it takes me to the Hindi article. So it's on Hindi Wikipedia. It's not a translation; it is written by volunteers. So, but because it's a multilingual community, you can select different languages as long as it is available. The popular articles are available in every language, but less popular articles may not be available in every language. So what LangViews does is that it gives so New Delhi article is available on multiple languages. So it gives a page view count of the number of pages received for the selected time period, let's say almost 2 weeks, and across different languages. So English received highest, and then Hindi, Russian. That's interesting. So across different languages, how many pages? There's Telugu. That specific article received. And if the article is not present, like uh, there's an article on English, but it's not present on Hindi, then it won't be shown. Uh, Top views gives the top viewed articles in a month or like by an year. So, for example, if you want to see the top viewed articles on last year on English Wikipedia, so ChatGPT, Deaths, World Cup, Oppenheimer movie, Cricket World Cup. So you can see that, and it can be changed to. Let's see. Let's see Wikipedia. Yeah. So on Wiki Voyage, there's like Asia, Europe, USA, Italy, Africa. So you can see. So these are mostly places. So you can see which are the top viewed places on in 2023. And so there are other views. So site views, mass views is so mass views is a little different. So page views, you can wanna the page views is only can view up to 10 pages if you want a quick comparison. But mass views you can. So on Wikipedia we have categories. So like categories are like topics relevant to the subject. So for Mumbai, it is cities in Maharashtra. So now I want to get the page views of all these cities. So what I can do is I can select the category name, cities in Maharashtra, and comment. So it gives me consolidated like list of all like a page was received by all the cities. So you can do that by category, like page file, like so, or a query, or so you have, for example, we have this query here, and if you want to, if you're doing something with pages and if you want to use them, you can use that too. And yeah, so that's a bit like redirect views, use of views that make it a little confusing at this point for introduction. But so this is one tool that we also use to visualize different data. We'll pause for a minute if there are any questions. Or okay. Cool. So the next tool, and this will be the last for this session, is Pause. Pause is Python as a web shell. It's a shortcut for Python as a web shell. So before I start, like I would just quickly raise hands if you have experience, if you've used Python or if you're learning Python and or Jupyter notebooks. Okay. So pause is, I mean, if people are not familiar with Python, it might be, I'll give an introduction, if not go into the details for the session. So pause is a tool which can help you combine. So it's a Jupyter notebook, it is like an interactive terminal. So it can help you combine SQL and Python to do more advanced analysis. Because we saw SQL, but SQL cannot, you cannot do everything in SQL, right? Like there is a limitation. It is great, but you cannot do everything in SQL. So what we do is, but SQL is pretty, like it is very efficient in terms of speed rather than Python. So what we do is sometimes we try to use, so if you want to use a combination, okay, I want to get the data from SQL and then I want to use it in Python. So query is the way to do it. You can also do it manually. So for example, I go download the data and then upload the CSV back, but you don't need to do that. You can also do that directly. Okay, so here's an example. I won't be going into details because, yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot of people know Python. It will be confusing. So what I can do is I can directly connect to the Wikimedia databases. So there is a function and query. So this is a SQL query which you can run which you can run, for example, um, on query. Like, so for example, I can test this query on query and give me some results. So now what I'm doing here is, so when I was talking about query, one disadvantage I mentioned here is that you can only select one database at a time. So there is no way for us to select. That's the limitation of the tool. So I can only select English Wikipedia, or I can only select Telugu Wikipedia, or I can only select. So I cannot select multiple Wikipedias at once, but sometimes, for example, if you're understanding a community or like project, there will mostly we need to select multiple like projects. So what we do is we build a query on query, and then in Python write a loop. I mean, if you, not necessarily Python, but like any other programming language. So you're constructing a loop to loop through all wikis and get the results. I won't run the query because it will take long, but yeah. So for example, here I was looping through 50 Wikipedias and then getting the results. And so you can see the results here. So, yeah. So you can see the results of this query here. So I have in the query it is just for one wiki, and then I can use that to get results of all the wikis, like which wiki and then number of edits by different edit buckets. So yeah, that's the overview of different like the data tools we have, data sources we have. Feel free to explore and yeah, it is interesting. So a lot of time there is scope for it. Like there is most many times communities have need to understand how the communities are working. So there's a lot of scope for you to query the community data, and also it is a good way if you're students to do some projects of analyzing the community data and build your portfolio. Um, Yeah, that's all from my side. And if there are any questions or if you want me to explain something else again, I can do that.
Okay, so I will open the floor towards for participants. If you can please raise your hands if you have any questions for today's session, and also please put it in the chat. While we wait for the participants, I also have one question. So suppose like I want to make a Python app to visualize some data from Wikipedia tables, right? So is there an API which I can use to query, like which I can use for query and also for superset? Like
That's a good question. So there is the query API. Um,
maybe you can share your screen.
yeah,
Yeah.
so so this I can share. So these notebooks are public for reference. I can share a public link so to see an example. So these two specific functions. So this specifically, if you log into POS, this helps you to connect to the databases, and then you can run queries against it, and then you can visualize wherever you want that. But there's also query available. So you cannot connect. There is a way, but it's kind of unstable sometimes. But you cannot connect it to the databases without logging into POS. But you can. But there are other ways you can um, do that is through the API available. We have different APIs available, but the query API. So this is documentation of query API. There are different things you can query. Categories, links, everything that is available on like the SIG query is also available in using query, the API. The disadvantage of this is it is all of raw data. It is you have to pass through it oftentimes. Like for example, if you want to get it, so as compared to SQL, it is so there are some things which SQL can't do, but which is um, in this case. But I can show an example of how this works. So on English, so every wiki has a special page called API Sandbox. It helps you construct a GET request or like a POST JSON request. So what action? In the documentation, in the API query documentation, different fields are described. But so what we want to have is we want to query. So you can also edit using the API, which is like bots do. So you can, of course, you'll not have a right to edit if you don't have a bot account, but um, you can always query. So query and then you put the sub and then what property do you want? So I want to get categories of a page. You can set multiple properties. So now I want the categories of a page. And so once I go, yeah, yeah, we can. Okay, so I'm really confused as well. We can say the documentation list of categories the page belongs to. Okay, yeah. So once we say documentation, um, okay, so yeah, I got confused. So on the query side, you select the articles for the categories. So Mumbai is one. You can select up to 50 at a time. Hyderabad, or if you're writing in like Python, you can select as many as you want. Or like you have to look through them after finding it. So I've selected Mumbai, Hyderabad, and then of course I've selected categories, and then I can make a request. So it shows how things are going to be structured. So, for example, Mumbai, and these are the categories. So you can use this. So this is just a preview. So this is just a preview. It is not full result because it's like a sandbox. It is not like an actual. Um, you're not actually calling the result. So, and then you can use this URL or to kind of like, so this is how the URL should be structured to make the API call. And then like, so you can change the titles like Mumbai, Hyderabad, like something else. Or if you have a JSON as a JSON, then like as a post request, you can also use JSON post request. So the documentation has how to like create a request. So like how to structure a request and like how the responsible. It has different examples about different like different things you want to query for. And there are a lot of
Yeah.
like, so you can explore this list to see what all can be have the API access to.
Yeah, so my question was like more specific to query. So yes, we also had a session on APIs as well, where we saw a demonstration on how to use the sandbox in order to generate requests, right, and also post JSON requests. Um, uh, and but My question was specifically for query or superset. Like, so if I want to make like a Python app for visualization and I want to fetch the data for top 10 editors and maybe put the line graph in my own Python application. So you said that one way to probably do it would be on pause, right? Yeah. And I was wondering if there is any library that is also exposed that we could use to run the same like queries, but access the data which is accessible through pause.
So there is no library required. So the way I was saying is all. So the policy of Wikimedia is that all queries that are being run should be by registered users only. Data is public; it is not sensitive data. But so what you need to do is create an account on Wikipedia, log into Pause. So this is a function. This is a Python function. There is nothing. Of course, there's PyMySQL. It is a bridging library between SQL and Python. What you need to do is, so you have your credentials, like so your pause credentials, which once you log into pause on your terminal, this is a Linux terminal, so you can. So, so what we are referring here to connect to your like your conf- your credentials is this my CNF file, which is automatically created once you um, log into pause for the first time. So what you can do is I'm not going to show my credentials, but like you can download this file onto your local machine and then give a path to it and do the same because the analytics address is the same for if you're accessing pause or like your local computer. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay, that answers my question. So basically, I'd need the PyMySQL library and like some credential files, right, for my user query to be able to use it to query any open source information on Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, okay, that's great. Okay, any questions from the participants? You can also raise your hand or unmute and ask the question as well.
I think you're on mute.
Okay, since I missed the, okay, okay. Um, right. Basically, since if we do not have any questions, I can go ahead and close the floor for questions as well, and also give the closing statements for the session. So basically, thank you, everyone. And I would like to first of all thank our speaker, Mr. Casey, for giving this really like in detailed and like really interesting talk on the database, the MediaWiki databases, and all the and the interesting demonstration that he gave as well. I would also like to remind our participants that tomorrow we also have another session starting at the same time at 7 p.m. So don't forget to log in for the next session as well. And with this, I would like to say thank you once again to all the participants for attending today's session, and many thank yous to our uh, session speaker today, Mr. Casey, for his talk on MediaWiki querying tools as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and I will see you all tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.